He is 23 years of age. He is standing next to a dry well, the kind that hasn't had water in a long time. A mining train that is more than 15 football fields long is cutting through the desert behind him, less than a mile away, full of gold, packed full of iron. More valuable than his village will ever see in a lifetime. He no longer looks up, he no longer counts the vehicles. It's Mauritania. It also doesn't make any sense. This is the first paradox. Only 2 nations on Earth have a 100% Muslim population, not 95%, not mostly 100. The Maldives is the only country on Earth that is exactly like it, and they don't even share a continent. This is the second paradox. This country is 70% desert. As far as the eye can see is sand. Nevertheless, you can find surfers if you drive 20 minutes from the capital. Real surfers on the edge of the Sahara, riding Atlantic waves. And this is the one that ought to totally shatter your mind. Gold, iron, oil, diamonds, all of it is currently buried in enormous amounts beneath Mauritanian soil. Additionally, 40% of those who live above it are impoverished. This is the question we are trying to answer today. How can a wealthy nation become so impoverished? Stay put, because the answer isn't what you believe. To know why he is there, near that dry well, we must go back. It was a land that no one really wanted, and everybody took Mauritania. Historians still argue over who was first, or the Mande moving up from the south, or was the Bafar already in the sand. Nobody knows for sure. The desert remembers nothing. What we do know is the Berbers appear in the 3rd century, and for a while this was Rome's land, a remote, forgotten province on the edge of an empire that was scarcely aware of its existence. By the 11th century, however, everything had changed. Islam expanded following the conquest of Yusuf bin Tashfin forever. This incident ultimately led to Mauritania becoming 100% Muslim and shaped everything you just heard in our hook. Empires flourished for centuries afterward. Empires collapsed. The land continued to be passed around as if no one knew exactly what to do with it. Then France came in 1904 and accepted it. Before Mauritania attained independence in 1960, colonial rule persisted for over 50 years. However, the conflict did not end with independence, because a dispute was quietly erupting just south of here, a dispute over territory, boundaries, and who truly owns what. Later in this video, we'll revisit that fight, since a settlement has not yet been reached. Not back in 1960, not back in 1991, not right now. That unresolved dispute we just discussed, most people wouldn't be able to locate the location on a map, because Mauritania is like that. It's not tiny, it's not easily forgotten. It's enormous. This area of land is approximately 1,030,700 square kilometers. It is therefore larger than Egypt and ranks as the 28th largest nation on Earth, larger than Spain and France put together. Nevertheless, there are only 4.3 million residents. Take a moment to consider that. A nation this size ought to be noisy, packed, full of cities piled on top of one another. Rather, it is nearly silent because there is no sharing in the Sahara. Almost everything is swallowed by it. Mali is bordered to the east, northward is Algeria. Right on the edge is the disputed region of Western Sahara, the same conflict we just discussed. Senegal, following the southern border, and the icy, unending Atlantic to the west. But within those boundaries, sand. Sand for hundreds of miles in all directions. Where do people really reside then? They hold on to the margins, to a few oases, strewn like islands in a dusty sea, and to something else, which hardly anyone anticipates. A railroad, the iron ore for which this nation is renowned, is transported by a single train line that cuts directly through the emptiness. That train is more than just a means of transportation for entire communities out here. It is the only thing that ties them to the outside world. Do you recall our young man from the beginning? The one by the dry well, he's still standing there because of that train. Eventually, that train goes somewhere, to a city that ought not to exist at all. Nouakchott was hardly a dot on the map prior to 1970. 15,000 individuals. Nothing more than a quiet outpost on the Atlantic coast. Then came the droughts. The crises came next. Across North Africa, waves of people are escaping collapsing regions in search of the same thing, somewhere to live. And this is where they discovered it. 15,000 people grew to more than 1 million in a generation or less. Imagine your hometown growing 60 times over due to desperation rather than prosperity. Growth isn't that. The foundation of that city is survival instinct. The port, a vital link to the outside world, eventually opened in 1986. The only university in the nation opened for business in 1981. This unintentional city suddenly had a pulse, an economy, a sort of future. This is where the paradox becomes more complex, though, since Nouakchott now appears contemporary. Roads with pavement, governmental structures, an airport. It could appear to be any mid-sized capital, anywhere in the world from a distance. But when you get closer, the cracks become visible. The infrastructure was not designed to accommodate a large population. After being constructed for $15,000, it was silently and desperately asked to support 60 times its own weight. Roads break down more quickly than they can be fixed. Power networks are under stress. Lines of water run dry. The establishment of this capital city was never intended to support it. And that's precisely the kind of pressure that makes the wealth of a country a liability. This leads us to the actual question that needs to be addressed. Everything was supposed to change in 2001. Geologists discovered oil off the Mauritania coast, and this nation thought it had finally caught a break for one fleeting, electrifying moment. It was dubbed the Golden Dream in newspapers. Hospitals were promised by politicians, roads, schools, a future that at last reflected what lay beneath the surface. Then came China. China is currently Mauritania's biggest oil production partner. Enormous contracts, enormous infrastructure agreements. It appears to be an equal partnership on paper. However, ask yourself a question. Who typically ends up with the better half of a deal when a global superpower strikes one with one of the world's poorest countries? This is what the numbers truly indicate. Today, over half of this nation's total income comes from gold and iron alone. That sounds like wealth on paper. That sounds like a nation on firm ground. Nevertheless, over 50% of people still rely on farming, only for food, only to get through another season. Take a moment to consider that contradiction. While the people standing on top of that soil continue to pray for rain, the country is making millions from what lies beneath its soil. The gold rose from the earth. The wealth departed the nation. What about the dream? The 2001 one. It never quite reached him again. By the dry well to the young man. To the millions of people who, like him, are still awaiting their portion of the wealth that was meant to be theirs in the first place. Because the hard part was never striking oil. It's always about sharing. Now let's discuss sharing, because in Mauritania that word is expensive. The poverty rate in this nation is 40%. Not struggling, not getting by poverty. In a country rich in diamonds, oil, iron, and gold. Give that number a moment to breathe. In practical terms, this is what that poverty looks like. Cities are supposed to be the most advanced places, but only half of their residents have dependable access to electricity. Only 98,000 televisions are in use nationwide. There are 3 radio stations that aim to reach millions of people. It also becomes heavier. Here, the average lifespan is only 61 years. 61. Additionally, for every 1,000 babies born, dozens will not make it through their first year of life due to something as simple and avoidable as inadequate medical care. This is the difference between what is buried beneath the earth and what is actually seen by those who are standing on it. And do you recall the conflict we discussed in Part 2? The one simmering in Western Sahara. Just north of here, it continues to burn, unresolved many years later. And this is precisely what it is about: land resources, who is entitled to claim them. The struggle that is taking place in that young man's life by the dry well is the same one that is happening on a national level, because wealth was always abundant in Mauritania. It lacked a means of distributing that wealth to those who most needed it. This is the part of the story that no one anticipates, though. At last, that is beginning to change. However, you must comprehend, what has never changed before we can discuss what is. One thing in Mauritania has remained unwavering, despite all of the empires, droughts, and crises we have just experienced. Never broke its identity. Almost every house in this area has something amazing inside. A Hafiz, or someone who has committed the entire Quran to memory, word for word, cover to cover, is found in almost every family. Not one home out of 100, almost all of them. Here, religious instruction is not optional. It is the foundation of childhood. A child learns the Quran before they learn algebra. You can learn everything about the true values of this culture from that order of priorities. Arabic is the language of Nouakchott market stalls, prayer, and family. It is the language of daily existence. Furthermore, French continues to exist as a faint remnant of colonial times that has never entirely vanished, mostly among the educated. Next is the food. Honestly, this is where the desert and faith meet. A complete hospitality ritual is contained in a single cup of 3 rounds of slowly poured Maghrebi mint tea, each slightly sweeter than the last dried fish from the Atlantic. Tender, smoky camel meat. The oldest staple in the country, dates are sweet enough to make up for centuries of suffering when infrastructure fails. This is what endures, when the power fluctuates, when poverty creeps in from all sides. Faith, language, a meal together. Mauritania never lost these things, and they are precisely what will propel this nation forward. Tradition and faith kept Mauritania afloat. Moving forward, however, is not the same as standing still, and this nation is beginning to move for the first time in decades. The most obvious indicator is education. The percentage of people who are literate has increased to 51%. This is not a miracle, but it is a significant increase, particularly for a country that has struggled for so long to survive. Arabic is now taught alongside French and English in the classroom. It's not a minor detail. That generation is being given access to tools that their grandparents did not have. Then there is the desert itself, which is beginning to work in favor of its inhabitants rather than against them. Approximately 49,000 households could benefit from the 17 megawatts of clean power that a new solar project supported by funding from Dubai is bringing online. Recall Part 6. Do you recall the statistics regarding electricity and how few homes had dependable power? This is the first practical solution to that issue. Not a pledge, not a written plan. In the sand, panels are converting sunlight into something useful for a family. Additionally, something else is changing on those beaches in the Atlantic. The same ones we discussed in our opening paradox. Visitors are beginning to show up. Policies requiring a visa upon arrival are opening doors, particularly for Muslim tourists who have long had trouble getting to Mauritania. This doesn't solve every problem. Let's face it honestly. However, these are the first genuine rays of hope after all that this nation has endured, including poverty, shoddy infrastructure, and resources that never quite made it home. Tiny, but genuine. It also raises the question of what lies ahead for him. Let's return to the beginning. He remains there, standing next to the same dry well. But now something is different, because he actually looks up this time as the train passes. He can see it in the distance, beyond the tracks and the sand. Nouakchott, as it always has, emerging from nothing. At dusk, lights flickered on. A city that shouldn't be there, yet it continues to expand. None of the gold passing by him belongs to him. Doesn't possess the diamonds, oil, or iron that are buried beneath his feet. Let's return to the beginning. He remains there, standing next to the same dry well. But now something is different, because he actually looks up this time as the train passes. He can see it in the distance beyond the tracks and the sand. Nouakchott, as it always has, emerging from nothing. At dusk, lights flickered on. A city that shouldn't be there, yet it continues to expand. None of the gold passing by him belongs to him. Doesn't possess the diamonds, oil, or iron that are buried beneath his feet. Getting it into the right hands requires a lifetime of effort. In Mauritania, that work is still ongoing. One solar panel, one classroom, one train car at a time. So bear this in mind the next time you see a headline referring to a resource-rich nation. Remember him, because there is another country close by that hides an even stranger paradox. One with a navy and no ocean at all. That story comes next. Mauritania teaches us lessons that go beyond money. Maybe the problem is not only the wealth of a country. Unless they offer opportunity, education, and dignity to those most in need, resources are wasted. But Mauritania also reminds us that progress is not the norm. One individual, single classroom, one dinner, one candle. We don't choose where we are born and what we are up against, but it is up to us what we do with them. It's not what a nation owns, but what the people do that brings progress.